Hello and welcome back to Satisfactory. My name is Volcata, and I'm just taking a little bit of break here. We did a lot of stuff last episode, and there's been a lot of building, a lot of train riding, and a lot of death. And, I was just thinking, we have a house, and houses normally have televisions.
Not good.
And so why not? Let's put a television in here, and yeah. So I've just been sitting around, kick my feet up a little bit, and watch some TV. And flipping through the channels, I came across this channel and I've been watching it for a bit, and I gotta say, this guy's pretty good. I think maybe I should subscribe to him because he really seems to know what he's doing. Pretty good. But let's see what's on the other channel.
Pathway to what I like to call the conveyor weave, a beautiful interwoven masterpiece.
This is pretty good.
Much about other than that it's going to replace the northern section of the map, and it's going to be a significant change to this area. So if you have any factors in that area, get him out of there, all right? Because
what he just say?
not only is it a huge environmental change, we're also gonna move some of the nodes that are there. So be warned, okay?
Oh boy. Well, that's not good. Okay, so in case you didn't follow what they were talking about in that clip, we have some things that we have to consider and kind of discuss about what we're going to do in our build order and the direction of this series. Now, first of all, as he was talking about in the clip, in case you didn't follow, this whole area is going to get basically tore down and rebuilt. And we knew that area was going to get a revamp. They've been talking about that for a long time. It's not a surprise. I knew that before we started. People have talked about it in the comments section and have questioned my sanity for building in this area. And yes, I understand that. But there is a history of them revamping areas. And I kind of want to show you an example of what we've seen in the past, and this will tie into a comment I made in one of our earlier episodes when we were exploring the Dune Desert looking for hard drives. So let's head over there real quick, and I want to show you something. Now, when we were last here looking for hard drives, I said that this giant rock here was a source of pain for me, and that maybe someday I would explain how and why. And that is because in a previous run of this game, I built right here in this desert, even though it was slated for a revamp. And this rock is basically the revamp. Sure, they might move some other stuff around, but the only real thing that happened that was impactful was this rock. And I want to show you how that was impactful. All right, so here we are in a previous world. Don't pay any attention to all the yellowness. This was before it was free to do painting. And excuse the mess on the conveyors and all that stuff. It was in the middle of a revamp when the update hit. So these big rectangular buildings like here, that one there, and that one, and there's another one over there. These are all warehouses. Like the big warehouse that we built in Pixel Perfect. These are precursors to it. And this one right here in particular is a very important one because it carries a lot of very, very important products in it. And remember that rock that I just showed you? By the way, that's where my hub is. Well, that rock that I just showed you is right there. See? Right in the middle of my warehouse. And yeah, that's not good. But if something like this happened to us in our run, we could move the building. And I could move this building. If I were still playing this world, I could move this building. So with that kind of precedent set in the past, that's why I decided that it'd be okay or marginally safe to build where we've been building. But given the warning, I think what we need to do is we need to shift our direction a little bit. Now again, we're not going to like pause the series or anything, but we probably should change some of our plans, at least until the area is released and then we can know where we can safely build. And I think primarily that means up here where we're going to build our mega oil facility, that we put that on hold. And that's okay, because at this early in the game, we don't need the amount of stuff that is going to produce anyway. So we could go somewhere else. Now, I do happen to know that roughly around this area, there is also oil, because I have done a world in the Rocky Desert that's in this area, somewhere around this area. And I know south of it was some oil. So I'm thinking that it might be a good idea for us to explore down this way and kind of map out to see how we can bring a rail line down there, because that was always the plan. We have the rail loop that we built. It's actually more like this. Oops. It's more like this. But that was always meant to be the master loop, where we would have branches go off to other areas. So over in this area where it turns, we can branch off of it and head down that way and then come back up and rejoin the loop. So that was always the plan anyway. I think that maybe that's what we should do earlier. And that'll give us an opportunity to, map out this area, find out what are the resources that we could exploit along the way, and start establishing oil down in this rough area to be brought back up to our manufacturing. I think that's going to be the change in our immediate plans. We may or may not put off making our oscillators here. Probably not. We'll probably end up building them anyway and just tough it out. But I think we're going to avoid developing through this area and developing this station any further until we see what the update looks like. So that's a plan. However, that doesn't affect today's strategy, because we had other things that we wanted to do today. Let's head over to the train area. All right, head downstairs. Did I build a way out from the other side? Let's look. Oh yeah, I did, I think. So where we're going is the steel area, because today we want to start out there. Now you might recall that there are 2 unused belts on here, and we're going to use those today. Because today we want to start getting compacted coal up and running for our future fuel production, which is very soon in the future. And what we're going to do is we're going to kind of hijack this building and probably add another floor to it, because we don't need a continuous supply of black powder. There's just no point in it. Right now it's all going to the sink. The only things we use it for are, well, explosives, I guess, at the moment, right? And eventually we'll use it for ammunition once we go to the rifle. But neither of those uses will be continuous. They're only when we just need those few things. So there's no reason for us to be eating up the coal and the sulfur continuously when we could be making compacted coal with that. So what we're going to do today is we're going to tone this down so that it only produces when we need to replace a black power product. We're going to set up Nobelisk production, and then once Nobelisks are full, it will overflow into compacted coal. The compacted coal we're going to use for turbo fuel in wherever we do our oil, and that's what we want to start today, is preparing that so that we can take advantage of it as soon as we start getting our oil production up and running. So let me do a little math here, let me figure out exactly how we want this to look, how many machines we want to leave running, and let's get to expanding. Okay, so I'm still working out our final design for how we're going to do the building with all the sulfur and the coal, but I was examining this area, deciding if I wanted to tear it down and kind of rebuild it and maybe use this space, and it's a decision I haven't made yet. That's not the reason I came back. The reason I came back is because while I was doing that, I looked over and saw this line wasn't backed up, and it should be, because our spreadsheet says that we have 2 stator surplus down the entire line. Now, that's a very slow backup, but this has been running for a really, really long time. And I wanted to bring you guys back because, you know, if you're doing a factory, and especially if you're paying attention to the numbers and trying to keep kind of things balanced, if you see something that doesn't look right, then it probably means something's not right. And you need to take a time to look at it and figure out what's wrong and follow the entire production line. So I followed the production line on this one, starting with the end, which is where we're using these to make sure we're not using more of them than we're supposed to be. And let me take you there real quick like. So they come off the highway and they follow this belt. You know, you can't be expected to always remember where everything goes. It goes across the top there, and essentially this is going into our motors. And we should be using 30 per minute into motors. And if we look at our motor manufacturing, why can I not make that jump? Oh, I had my gas mask on because I had to go examine the silver mine. Now we had this one shut off, but we have 4 of them here and they use 10 stators per minute. So we definitely should only be using 30 per minute. If we look down here, this machine's only running at 58%. Look, it's not back, the machines aren't even backed up. That means 32 or at least 30 per minute are not making it down here. So we have to follow the line back to where it started. So now that we know that we're not using more than we intend to, where's that line? I think it's that one right there. Yeah, it's that one right there. Follow it all the way back. This is the building that manufactures it. So are we actually manufacturing enough of them? So we have 4 machines. 4 times 8 is 32. So we set up enough machines. And this isn't backed up on QuickWire. And that's being the first one really should be backed up. So we can go down here. Operating at 56%. So it's not getting enough QuickWire. So we know it's not stators that are a problem, it's the QuickWire. Let's go check that out. So the QuickWire is feeding along this bottom belt. This is what is actually supplying stators. And if we see the belt goes over and up. And I didn't point it out, but each stator machine is using 60 QuickWire per minute. And so we have 4 machines, and the output is 60. It's 4 and 4, so we should have exactly 4 machines. And we can see already that this isn't getting enough deuterium ingots. So we don't really need to worry about the line as much as we need to examine the deuterium ingots. They're coming from downstairs. And this is all of it. And look, these machines aren't even backed up. So we're producing 180 per minute. A Mark II belt handling 180 per minute ore. So all the way back at the source was the problem. I mean, really the source of everything. So it's good that when you see something that doesn't look like it's right, take the time to examine, follow the entire chain. You know, if the math says it should be working and it doesn't work, trust the math. Something's not right in the factory. And just follow it all the way back until you find something, and if everything, all the machines look right, then start checking your belts, because there's probably a belt that's too slow somewhere. All right, let me get back to establishing our strategy for our next build. All right, I've got a plan. And it's going to require some expansion. So we're going to double the size of this building, which we don't have the ground for. So we're going to expand out our platform. And that's good because there's going to come a time where we're going to increase our steel production. And rather than stacking these buildings going up, we can stack them going backwards. And that would work out just great. So I think that's what we're going to do now. We're not going to do anything with these buildings, obviously, but that's going to give us room in the future to work with. And we're going to expand this one outwards. Now, in order to fulfill my ultimate goal here, well, you may have heard the expression, go big or go home. Well, we're going to go big. And in order for us to go big, we need to go home. So let's head back home real quick and I'll show you what I'm getting at. And that reason was to get our Mark IV conveyor belts. Because we need them. Or we're getting ready to need them. All right.
Milestone reached. The fuel generator will match power generation to the increased consumption of
So
recently
the Mark
acquired
IV belts
technologies and buildings.
can supply
Additionally,
480
improved
resources
conveyor
per
belts
minute.
and lifts can now be constructed.
Let's head back to steel. And the reason that we're going to need those belts is because we're going to wildly overclock our coal and our sulfur because we want as much compacted coal as we can get our hands on. So we're going to head back down to here.
Comply.
Crank this beauty all the way up to 300 per minute. Get ourselves some Mark IV belts. And get out of the the poison gas. All right, so we have 300 per minute coming in of sulfur. We will have 300 per minute coming in of coal as well, and an assembler. Does 25 per minute. So that works out to 12 assemblers exactly. Works out very nicely. If we didn't overclock it to 300, it'd come out with kind of a wonky number. Plus again, this is going directly towards giving us energy once it becomes turbo fuel. The extra energy we're using by overclocking them is going to be more than offset by the extra turbo fuel we'll be able to produce to give us even more energy. So it's a win-win for us. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go overclock that coal down at the bottom, and I'm going to start to expand this whole thing outwards far enough for us to double the size of this building because we're going to mirror it backwards. And then we're going to add a whole other floor to it. And that's going to give us room for our 12 assemblers. Right now we're using 4 assemblers in here for black powder. Again, we don't care about the rate of black powder. We're not going to care about the rate of the nobelisks either. So we're just going to actually tear a couple of these out and change one of them. So these produce 7.5 per minute black powder. The nobelisks consumes 15 black powder per minute. So we'll take out like that machine right there probably, turn this one into a nobelisk machine, and we'll just have one nobelisk machine running. That's all we need because it'll be backed up. We'd never use them anyway. And when we expand this building backwards, that'll give us room for 4 more assemblers. And then, 8 on one floor. So we'll be able to put 8 on the next floor above. And that'll be our 12 assemblers for compacted coal. And then we'll run all of them out and run them to the warehouse. So let me get to expanding this. And I'm going to go ahead and expand it all the way down because, again, eventually we're going to probably expand these buildings backwards. And might as well just get some of that space done now. So let me get to it and get this thing done. Oh, now that wasn't too bad, now was it? Just kind of extend an existing building, not nearly as complex as the previous thing that we did with the computers. But there were some challenges in here, and so I want to go over it to show you what things I had to do to really get it to work. Now, it is fairly compact. You know, we are kind of up to the wall here, and since we had done just one spine down the middle with these coming up from the bottom, it didn't really lend itself to doing, you know, a good belt weave. And the second floor isn't quite as appropriate for these to come up from an underfloor. So I went ahead and did this floor the same, because it's still the same resources. That's the whole point to combining these buildings, right? These have coal coming up in them, and they're both sharing, you know, the sulfur. So on the second floor, you know, I had to get a little creative with it. Sulfur is barely coming underneath, and then I had to just kind of float some splitters. Not my first choice, but it's not bad. I'm okay with it. And they are so close I couldn't even stack the splitters, because if I stack them in the middle, then the belt can't make it from the middle to the sides. So the splitters had to be lined up directly. But that's all right. You know, we got it. We got it going, and it's looking good. And I think it's ready to fire up. Let's head back downstairs. I want to show you a couple more things real quick like. So this over here, here we are. This is going to be our obelisk production. And we're going to have our steel pipes come in from over there. But what I had to do for the black powder is originally they were going out this wall, but I needed them to be able to split on a smart splitter. So I turned this merger, and they're still merging together. And then that's a smart splitter that's going down underground and then going out to the warehouse. And it goes underneath, basically it just goes under the machine and then comes right back up. It seems to work out, so I'm good with it. So let's connect this. And that should take care of that. It's only 30 per minute. And it will just pop out here, and it will come around and stack on top of the black powder. And of course the area above it will be for compacted coal. And I just shifted this whole thing over. I took out the splitter that was sending it to the sink, because we're no longer going to sink any of these things. And just send it on its way. And these other two are set to merge with the highway in the two unused belts, which is why I had them reserved in the first place. And these guys here are just waiting for power. Coming from here to here. They should kick in, I think. I hope. Yep, very good. And then the upstairs needs to be connected from the outside. There. And we're going to run up there real quick and just verify that it's all working properly. Ooh, green lights all over the place. Excellent. Just failing my jump here. Not a lot of room to work in. Oh boy, all right. Yeah, that's going to be a lot of product. So we still need to upgrade the belts going back to the base. You can see all this is Mark IV. And that actually kind of addresses another problem that we're going to have. I've been aware of it. I haven't really talked about it. But it's something we're going to have to tackle in the relatively near future, and I don't have an immediate solution for it. I mean, I have ways I can work around it, but not a solution I want. And that is that now that we're at Mark IV belts use the encased industrial beams, as you can see there. And we're not really making very much of a surplus of those. Very, very narrow. And that gigantic building is what's making what we already have. So we can kind of work around it, you know, in the short term if we really need to ramp up production. It takes materials that are, you know, now meeting at the warehouse, and we could put a, you know, a little bit down there, but they use the steel beams, and we don't have a whole lot of room for steel beams either. So, you know, steel is really going to be, I think it's going to slow us down. And I kind of wanted to see if I can hold out until we get Mark III miners. But we might end up making, you know, another steel area in the meantime. I love doing this. I love riding a belt as I upgrade it. It's just so cool. Let's slow down here and wait for it. Oh, whoa, it caught right up with us. All right, so I'm going to get this all run into the warehouse. And by the way, I also didn't mention, I chose these two belts on purpose back when I originally set up the warehouse. I want to show you where those come out. Specifically what containers they are. It's relevant. It is this one right here and the one right behind the tree. So the two that we couldn't get past the tree without cutting the tree down, those are the two that we're going to use for the nobelisks and for the compacted coal, which is great because we'll never need to bring them out. We don't need nobelisks to come out the front, and compacted coal isn't going to be used out here. It'll go out the back and go to the train station. So we have managed to officially save this tree. All right, so we don't have a whole lot of time, but we do have some things that need to be upgraded to Mark IV belts, like our quick wire. If you'll recall, those were running Mark III belts, even though they should be carrying 300. So we're going to head over there, and I feel like there was something else that we needed Mark IV belts for, and I'm just drawing a blank on it. So hopefully by the time I get there, I'll remember. Boy, it came to a stop awfully fast, didn't it? Hard braking. Okay, so we need to upgrade all of this to Mark IV. Oh, that's not where I wanted to be. Oh boy. Let me up. Let me up. Okay, looks like I'm going to build my way down. We don't have enough material with us. Maybe I should have brought a personal train. I think we got some on there. Oh, we could call for it. But you know, right now I'm actually just going to finish off the belts that are actually running because we're not running the other side. Because we still don't have the power to spare. And I still don't remember what was the other thing. There was something else that we had temporarily used Mark III belts when we knew we were going to need Mark IV. You know, if you think about it, if you can remember, leave a comment, because I am drawing a complete blank, and I really feel like there was a second item. I don't think we need the Mark IVs all the way back. No, we don't. That's only one machine there. That's doing 60. That brings that up to 120. And there was one more thing I wanted to show you before we wrap things up. So let's head back to the computer building. All right. And after I finished recording the last episode, I came back here and I painted this out. Kind of made this a hazard zone, and I took out the floor, raised up the glass, and I made it so we could actually still see them. And they can actually notice us sometimes and shoot. So, oh yeah, there we go. So, you know, it's kind of what I wanted anyway. I'd rather have them up on the floor, but looking down in the natural habitat works out pretty well. So, wasn't a complete loss. Alright, well, they seem to be in their own little world there. Maybe they're missing their little guy, the one that killed himself. But let's head back home and wrap this up. Alright, and we're home. That's where we're at. There we go. One more thing to do before we go back to the comfort of our house. Which is this is done. And we just need, if I remember correctly, 100 computers. And this will be the last of our items necessary for the current milestone on the space elevator. So we'll let that take care of itself over time, and eventually it will be done. All right, into the tube on the way home. All right, so that's gonna wrap it for today. You know, we went over a bunch of new stuff, you know, our new plans, and I'm excited to start doing that. So probably next episode, we'll look to start exploring. I don't know how much we're going to get done in the next episode. We'll just have to see that then. But we now have a reliable source of compacted coal coming into the warehouse where we can export it from the station to wherever it is that we end up setting up oil for our fuel production. So that's excellent. We are prepared and ready for it. And that's going to be the next thing, right? That's the thing that's slowing us down. We need rubber and plastic to increase our computer manufacturing rates, as well as we need the fuel to power our entire base. We're really running close on the line, which is why we don't have the other side of the quick wire turned on. We could get away with turning on if we had to, but you know why? You know, we're going to eat up a lot more power when we set up the refineries, and we don't want to have to do a thing where we have to set up a few and try to get power running. So it's just better for us to do it the way we're doing it. So that's going to be it. Thank you very much for coming out. I hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to leave a like on the way out. If you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe. And be sure to leave a comment in the comment section, especially if you can remember what it was that we need our Mark IV belts for, because I'm drawing a complete blank. I just had a mental note that there were 2 things that we had to go back and upgrade, and I can't remember the other one. But thank you very much for coming out, and I hope to see you in the next episode. And thanks for watching.